and welcome to the regular meeting of the Lakeport City Council and the Board of Directors of the City of Lakeport Municipal Sewer District. We just adjourned from closed session with no reportable action. Roll call.
Councilmember Parlett?
Here.
Councilmember Spillman?
Here.
Councilmember Turner? Here. Mayor Pro Tem Matina?
Here.
And Mayor Shield is out.
Pledge of Allegiance. Chief, do you want to lead us?
Yes. Ready, begin. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thanks everyone for coming. If you're here for a certain agenda item, please wait for that item if you'd like to speak. And if there's anything else you want to speak on, there's comment cards up front. Acceptance of the agenda.
I'll move to accept the agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda. Waive the reading and set by title of any ordinances. Approve the warrant register from January 6th. Approve minutes of the regular city council meeting of February 3rd. Approve application 2015-001 for Lake County Family Resource Center for their annual child festival in the park on Saturday, April 11th from 8 to 3 with requested street closures on Park Street. And approve application 2015-004 for the Clear Lake Club for the Care for Scarlett Mitchell fundraiser in the alley behind the club on Saturday, February 28th from 9 to 5:30. Yes.
On item D, it's actually Lake Family Resource Center.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Does anyone want to discuss any of those?
I'll move to accept the consent agenda with the typo corrected.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any citizen input tonight? No. Nothing? Okay, we have an introduction of new employees in public works. Is that you, Mark?
Jay and Stephen, come on up. Okay, I'd like to introduce Jay Strugnell. Jay Strugnell just started working for the water enterprise out there with the surface water treatment plant with the wells. Long history working on diesel engines, which is going to be interesting because we have an aging infrastructure out there for the water industry, so the mechanic aspect is going to come in very handy. As well as he comes with the California State Grade 2 water treatment certification, which is not easy to come by. So we're very fortunate to get Jay to come in and bring with him all the knowledge that he has with electrical and mechanical experience, plus his knowledge and ability to run the surface water treatment plant as a grade 2 state operator. And we're looking forward to having him show the guys out there something about maintenance, because we're going to be doing a lot of it. So, Jay, do you have anything you want to add?
Great.
Welcome. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be here. Like you said, I have 27, 28, 29 years in diesel mechanics, and then 1 year at the City of Clear Lake in public works. And some college classes to get the water treatment certifications. It's great to be here, and so far it's going well.
Great. Do you have one more, or just?
I don't see him.
Oh, okay. Is it Stephen Rodriguez?
Stephen Rodriguez.
And what do you want to just tell us? What?
Sure. Stephen Rodriguez, he is working in the roads crew, and he is somebody that I have a lot of hope that with his qualifications that he's going to be somebody that will, with his intellect and his abilities, will be a fit for the long term for succession planning. He shows a lot of promise. We're looking forward to see what he can do.
Good. Thanks, Mark. Okay, move on to public hearing. We have a public hearing and adoption of the proposed resolution ordering the vacation of a portion of right-of-way on Martin Street between Main Street and Forbes Street. So,
Hello. Thank you. Well, tonight the City Council is being asked to conduct a public hearing for the proposed vacation of city right-of-way on Martin Street and consider resolution ordering the vacation. Briefly, the subject parcel is located at 275 South Main. It is owned by the Lake County Arts Council, DVA Soper Reese Community Theater. The owner's plan is to construct an addition on the south side of the theater, which will provide ADA-compliant restrooms and access ramp into the theater. Originally, it was believed that the project would merely encroach the landscape area south side of the building, but the right-of-way actually extended through the landscape area, and that the addition would encroach between 5 to 6 feet into Main Martin Street right-of-way. To allow Soper Reese to construct the proposed building addition, would have to encroach, well, the city would have to abandon 5.4 feet of public right-of-way covering the landscape area. The application for the addition was received by the applicant, for considering by the Planning Commission to determine general conformity, but during the general plan conformity analysis, staff determined that the present right-of-way for Market Street is 60 feet, and that the abandonment of 5.4 feet would provide 54.6 feet of right-of-way for Martin Street. And at that time, several factors were noted and considered, one being Martin Street's designation as an arterial street in the transportation element of the Lakeport general plan, Martin Street listing as a candidate for various proposed future improvements, but no specific improvements were designated. The arterial street standard for right-of-way width is actually 60 to 66 feet, and leaving the right-of-way just short of the standard for Lakeport Municipal Code. Staff's opinion that the vacation of Martin Street should not be a significant issue for a functional point of view or affect the traffic movements at this location. The one block that we're looking at is the only block along Martin Street which presently has specified 60 feet of right-of-way. And the action would decrease the right-of-way to a substandard width per the Lakeport Municipal Code, but similar to the majority of Martin Street. The City Council considered these issues for this item on January 20th, 2015, and adopted a resolution initiating proceedings and setting a public hearing for tonight, publishing and posting notice on the proposed vacation of city right-of-way on Martin Street. Proposed right-of-way abandonment is depicted on the site map and depicted in Exhibit A, consists of the displayed portion which the Lake County Arts Council proposed. There are no utilities for the proposed abandonment area. Therefore, staff is recommending that the City Council adopt the proposed resolution ordering the vacation of a portion of the right-of-way on Martin Street between Main and Forbes. That concludes my staff report. If there are any questions?
any questions before we open the public hearing? No. Okay, so at 6:09, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone have any comments? How boring. Okay, a few seconds later, we'll close the public hearing. Bring it back to council.
I'll go ahead and move to adopt the proposed resolution ordering the vacation of the portion of the right-of-way of Martin Street between Main Street and Forbes Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to back up for just a moment, if it's okay.
Come on up.
Another new employee that just arrived.
Yeah. So Stephen Rodriguez.
This wasn't.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be here.
Stephen was just hired for the Public Works to work on the road crew. Has extensive experience in construction. Knows how to run about everything. I think everything we have, you know how to run. That's backhoes, skid steers, dump trucks. He's comfortable setting grades. He's somebody that we're just very, very fortunate to have brought on, and I'm excited to see what you can do going forward, and have a lot of ambition for you to be here a long time and work your way through the chain and make a career here.
Great, congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome, Stephen.
Okay, general plan amendment. We have another public hearing. This is Richard.
Good afternoon. Bear with me just a minute, please. Too much stuff. Okay. The City Council is being asked to conduct a public hearing regarding a proposed addendum to the City of Lakeport General Plan EIR and consider update amendment of the Lakeport General Plan. Even though there's reference to pre-zoning, the pre-zoning actually will be coming back to the City Council at a subsequent meeting. We actually thought we might be able to do the pre-zoning under the general plan resolution, but it has to be done by ordinance, so there are some procedural requirements that we have to satisfy. So at your next meeting, we'll be considering the pre-zoning amendments in the southern part of the Lakeport sphere of influence. The council is also being asked to consider recommendations made by the Planning Commission on January 14th regarding the approval of the 2014 addendum to the general plan EIR prepared by De Novo Planning Group on behalf of the city, and also being asked to consider the resolution which is in your packet, which would, if approved, amend the general plan. So in your packet, you have a number of things, including minutes of the Planning Commission, the addendum to the general plan EIR. And by the way, I have copies, hard copies of the general plan addendum, general plan EIR addendum here. If any of the council members or staff or anyone in the audience would like a copy, you're certainly welcome to take copies. So let me know if anybody up there would like one. You have those in your packet, by the way. The Planning Commission and staff recommendations as to final action with regard to the project are for approval. The addendum to the general plan EIR together with the final general plan EIR constitutes the CEQA environmental review of the project, which was started about a year ago. There was a resolution adopted by the City Council to proceed with a focused update of the general plan addressing the sphere of influence and other policy matters in primarily the southern part of the city. There's some reference to state statute with respect to general plan addendums in your staff report. I'm going to go back and just reference that the October 24th CEQA document is an addendum to the 2009 City of Lakeport General Plan EIR. The 2014 addendum, EIR addendum, addresses proposed changes and amendments to the general plan as recommended by the Planning Commission to the City Council last June. The proposed general plan amendments, which are referred to as the modified project, is described in detail in the EIR addendum. The 2009 Lakeport General Plan EIR is referred to as the adopted project. The modified project will reduce the Lakeport sphere of influence, modify general plan policies and actions to address conservation, infrastructure, utilities, and growth. The modified project will also amend the Lakeport General Plan land use map, and even though the staff report states that it will modify the pre-zoning, as mentioned, we'll be doing that as a separate action at a follow-up meeting. So in your packet, you have copies of the sections of the general plan that are being amended. Most of the council members have seen this before, as it was recommended by the Planning Commission again last June. We sent out today a track changes version, which really identifies those changes that are being made. You have the complete version, but I think it's a little easier to understand what is existing, what's being proposed with those track changes, so we wanted to follow up with that. So, upon conclusion of the public hearing, it is recommended that the City Council take the following action. Approve and adopt the proposed resolution that includes approval of the 2014 addendum to the City of Lakeport General Plan as prepared by De Novo Planning Group, dated October 24th, and also would adopt the Lakeport General Plan text and map amendments as set forth in attachment A. In the staff report, there are some options, and there is also a suggested motion that you may consider upon the conclusion of the public hearing. So are there any questions?
I'd just like to say thank you for the tracking version. That was actually very helpful to kind of be able to look through.
Yeah, we had intended actually to include that initially, but over the weekend I took a look and the final version got into your packet, but it makes it a lot easier to see and understand what's being proposed for changes.
And a lot of cleanup language.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. Any questions? No? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing at 6:17. Do we have any public comment? Okay. Going to close the public hearing. I'm just so proud it's so well done.
I'll make a motion on this.
Wait.
Move.
Go ahead.
That's right. Did you need that?
I had a question.
Oh,
But
go ahead. No.
if you
Please,
make
go
your motion,
ahead.
I can go second with discussion. There is, in section number 3, the urban boundary element. I had a really good chat with Richard this afternoon, and thank you again for taking the time to explain planning principles as well as background of this general plan. I know that working with the county and planning, the general plan is a document of great influence since it's the community's voice. And so when we encounter projects, we match them up against the zoning ordinance as well as the general plan. And when they appear to be inconsistent, it's problematic for staff to support that project for going forward. In light of that, I was reading the urban boundary element, and there is a sentence that was likely dropped from previous plans in an urban group. And so the sentence, I'll read it to you. It says, city services and infrastructure will be extended at the time of annexation to the city. And this one, of course, caught my eye because given just the recent history regarding water supply to property owners that are outside of our direct city boundaries, yet the our sphere of influence has been in the news. And so when I read this sentence, I was considering this issue as well as we go forward into the future. There could be, hypothetically, there could be an agreement of participation of jurisdictions in the future that would allow for a more flexible sort of progress as far as city services and infrastructure. They may get a little less contained by city boundaries if there were say, a cooperative agreement extended between the county jurisdiction and the city's jurisdiction that took into account primarily the community's view for what it wanted for the county and the city together in areas where it may be a sphere of influence location, but not yet technically within boundaries of the city. Given that, what I would like to see this sentence say is just change one word and have it say city services and infrastructure may be extended at the time of annexation to the city. This would allow for possibilities, and just using the word may, given the right situation or the right environment, the right cooperative agreement between multiple jurisdictions, it would allow for implementation of projects or policies or plans that maybe wouldn't be as easily allowable with the word will be extended. So if the council is amenable, I'd like to suggest that one change. It would not take away our ability to preside over decisions regarding city services and infrastructure in any way. It would still, exactly, it would just sort of enlarge our number of possibilities. And given a possible different future, which is what the general plan is meant to guide, it would enable more options.
Which item on the urban boundary element, which area is that on?
It is on page 3-1. It's right at the very title. It says urban boundary element. The title is right at the top. It is in the second paragraph. And I'm looking at the updated, the latest one with the strikeouts. This sentence was actually underlined and in red, which tells me that it was just added to this plan.
Richard, I have a question on that. Would that language, would that be in line with what LAPCO would want to see?
Well, actually, I'm going to look at the city attorney, and you may want to consider asking the city attorney, I don't want to put him on the spot, but, you know, the word shall, the word will, and the word may all have sort of different connotations. I think at least in my view, the word will is not as strong as the word shall. And the word may not be as strong as the word will. I guess in terms of just kind of weighing in on the use of that word may, and thinking about past practices of the city, in annexation of land, annexations of land that have occurred over time, there are areas where annexations have occurred and city services, the full range of city services, have yet to be provided to those areas. The city does not necessarily require immediate connection to, let's say, water and sewer system upon annexation, primarily because of the costs associated with doing that. In other words, let's say in a scenario where the city annexes land and the property owner has a desire to have water service or sewer service. That water or sewer service is generally not provided until there is a method of financing, and that's typically borne by the property owner or the developer. And Myra, just to kind of follow up on our discussion earlier today, I did go back and look at the general plan in 1992, and that specific language that is being proposed now wasn't in the general plan in that same fashion, but there are or were a number of policies in the general plan that speak to the same issue, and I'll just read you one. It speaks, and again, I'm reading from the 92 general plan, where it says, annexation requests over 5 acres or more shall only be approved if the following findings are made by the city council. And there's A through G, but F in that particular policy is dealing with financing for community services and utilities required by the proposed annexation have been identified and exist. So it's sort of similar in terms of that language that I think is being proposed now. There's also another policy that speaks to the need to develop standards for the expansion of city services. Again, in the 92 general plan that didn't carry over to the 2009 general plan. I can't tell you why. These, I think, are valid policies, but for whatever reason, they weren't carried over. I wasn't in a role to be able to deal with that at the time. I think I probably would have argued that some of these policies should have been carried over. So what's being proposed now is, of course, been recommended by the Planning Commission, and that word will has been used. And I don't really remember if there was a whole lot of discussion at the Planning Commission about the word shall versus will. I don't remember any discussion about the word may, but anyway, I hope that gives a little more background about where that language came from. It was consistent, I think, with what was in the 92 general plan.
So if I'm to understand you correctly, then there was criteria that was listed in the 1992 plan that did not carry over, but would have supported the will be extended. However, where we are today, we do not have such criteria, and in fact, we're also not extending it in areas where we have extended, we have annexed.
Well, I think in terms of practice, the policy, the use of the word will is consistent with the practice of the city with respect to annexation and the provision of services. In other words, the idea is that eventually city services and utilities will be extended to areas that are annexed.
Well, and Richard, isn't the completion of our water system with the loop line finishing the system, is that part of the general plan document where that's stated, or is that a different document?
It is in a general context, yes, consistent with the general plan, but there are separate master plans, both water and sewer master plans. And they're also referenced by the general plan.
Right, so those are all approved, so that would be why it would say will, because those are all part of those plans to complete that water system.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier about the issue of looking at that policy language in its totality, and meaning that upon annexation, the idea is that let me step back. City services and utilities are not extended outside the city limits because that would be sort of an uncontrolled mess, if you will. In other words, if anybody who wanted city services came down to the city and asked for them and received them without annexation, there would very likely be a sustainability issue. So that policy really comes from a position of good management, of sustainability, good planning, good fiscal management of particularly your water and sewer system, but also other city services. Everything from police services to general government services, planning and building, and all the other services that the city provides. And so I think in the context of looking at that policy, that's really how it has to be looked at. It's the totality of city services and infrastructure that is being referred to.
Well, I can see where Maria's problem is. City services and infrastructure will be extended at the time of annexation to the city. It's not like what it sounds like you're saying, city service and infrastructure will eventually be extended to this part of the city that's annexed after funding and various things. But I think that it's almost saying, well, we just got annexed to the city. It says in the contract here that you're supposed to be extended at the time of annexation. The time of annexation is now. We would like to be hooked up to city services. That is not exactly what the reality is. And so it's like city services and infrastructure will eventually be extended to the annexed area of the city.
It's still the reality, because it's the person that doesn't necessarily want to pay for it then, is why it doesn't get done then.
So if they pay for it, then they...
Yes, so still a reality. The reason why it's not, that it doesn't become immediate is because usually the person has to pay to connect to our city water, so
So the opportunity for service and infrastructure are immediately extended if you want to pay for it.
Yes.
So, okay, I see. So in other words, it's the ideal of getting the services and those things. They can happen if you're willing to fund it.
Yeah, now, with respect to...
But not the actual physical...
Right, right. But with respect to the broad general governmental services, you know, that we spoke about, the planning services, the building services, the general government services, the administrative services, those services are made available immediately upon annexation.
And our water ordinance also has the same, we don't provide water unless you're in the city limits. That's also part of our ordinance. Water too.
So the services is like the general staff here and all the needs that you would be having in order to get this facilitated to eventually get it. Okay.
So, you know, with respect, I mean, I don't know if David needs to weigh in on this, the terms.
We like him to.
You know, we certainly didn't want to say shall be provided, because I think it leads to that expectation.
Right. David?
Yeah, the way I read this, first of all, it's not a contract, so it's not like you're going to have a private party suing based on general plan that we have to be paying for a sewer line to the house. The way I read the will is as an aspirational type of language, so it reflects the policy judgment that once there's annexation, these services will be provided. It doesn't mean that they have to be provided right away, but it also doesn't mean that we can simply deny those services for no reason. Whereas the may connotates really in either way, either or. And that's not how I read this language, and I think that's how the court would like it to be. Generally, although you can argue about it, unless there's definitions that are different in a statute, which is read a little, will be read differently than the general plan. Shall is mandatory, and may is not correct. So,
Well, we don't want to argue about it.
Yeah. So where's will stand up?
So will is aspiration.
Aspiration.
It's it reflects an intent to allow these services on annexation, but it doesn't create a binding legal obligation to provide them at cost to persons being provided the service.
Okay.
Also, for out of service, I mean, you have to go if the city wanted to provide a service outside its boundaries, it would have to get LAFCO approval for an out of service area. So something
Thank you.
Just one final comment. There was a planning commissioner here, and he could verify this, but I don't think we had this level of discussion at the planning commission meetings. So I think it's good. So I'll leave it in your hands.
Thank you, Richard.
Well, I would like to personally congratulate Lorraine for seeing that. I mean, it's 178 pages or so of the packet here, and I went through it with a fine-tooth comb, and I missed that. But I appreciate your trepidation on that, but I think I fully understand what the latitude or what the magnitude of this kind of thing is. It's mainly about other services, and if they have the money and funding and so forth. But
I appreciate Lakeport's strong stance of sustainable development as well. That does make sense to me. I just wouldn't want our council to be limited in its options due to wording.
Were you
it helped that it was read and underlined.
Were you thinking about maybe possibility of sharing like water or sewer with the county, or some kind of a joint project or something like that, or just? having other options available other than the city sending it out there.
Well, yes, I was thinking about allowing for options in the future, should two jurisdictions decide to sort of put planning principles and smart development principles ahead of what we've seen. So I wouldn't want our council to be limited. You know, I wouldn't want the people in community development to be limited by a general plan, and I know that it is a vital document. So, thank you.
Okay, well, we were about ready for a motion, but in light of the conversation, is there any public input? Okay. Still nothing. What do we have to do? Okay.
So what is the general feeling of that? Where was that left?
It should stay as it is.
Oh,
I am comfortable with it remaining
Yeah.
though. Yeah. I think this is a really good addendum. I like the way that the updates that have been integrated are mindful of resource conservation as well as what the city can sustainably move forward. If I had the staff report, I'd make a motion.
I will move to approve and adopt the proposed resolution that includes the approval of the 2014 addendum to the City of Lakeport General Plan as prepared by De Novo Planning Group dated October 24, 2014 on behalf of the City of Lakeport, and also include the Lakeport General Plan text and map amendments set forth in Attachment A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
We'll move on to council business. We have a mid-year budget review. Hello, Dan.
Hello, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. Mark just gave me some stage advice. I'm not sure to rattle it down, so no pressure.
You and Russell down a little much?
Try my best. Let's see. While we wait for this to power up, my presentation and my remarks are divided into two sections. The first will be the mid-year review, which I hope to move through briskly. There's not a lot of surprises, at least from management's perspective, as to where we are with revenues and expenditures. I'd like to spend a little bit more time in the latter half of the talk on the budget adjustments, talk about what management is requesting, and throughout all this, I'd like to keep it open for questions anytime, as opposed to having to wait to the end and actually remember to write down all that sort of thing. So, as questions come to mind, please feel free to ask. If I can't answer them, most of the executive staff is here. We probably field more operational type questions. The city manager can field whatever questions you have as well. If she needs more detail, I know the staff is here.
I thought you were going to say if you couldn't answer them, then nobody could. You're out of luck.
Out of luck.
Yes, Dan is very valuable.
Very special. I'm just waiting for my iPad to talk to projector. It's not going to be one of those days, as I hope. There we go. Thanks. Okay. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, my remarks are going to be broken into two sections. We're going to talk about the mid-year review, some of the highlights that we'd like to draw your attention to. I'd like to go through quickly, and then I'd like to focus more on the latter half of the talk, that being the budget adjustments. So within the budget document, we have a series of budget policies. They're in the appendices, the back of the document. We talk about our approach to the budget, weighing reserves and what we consider to be a balanced budget, how budget adjustments are made, and so on and so forth. Those policies can be found starting on page 258 of the document. And if you have any questions about those specifically, please feel free to ask. Essentially, the city manager is responsible for the budget, preparation, presentation, and all of that. And it's a very collaborative effort, so every department is involved in the assembly of the budget. And the final document is ultimately prepared in finance, but it really is a culmination of the team effort towards putting all that information together. It usually starts with expenditure requests based around the goals of the projects, and then those are paired with revenue estimates to see if we can find something that works. But the city manager does have budget adjustment authority that she does make within certain confines, and then those are typically reported at this presentation here in mid-year. She hasn't made any substantive budget adjustments to date. The council has, and I'll report what those were in just a moment. I will say that my colleague Mark Rennigan probably holds the record for the fastest budget adjustment, adjusting the budget on day one. And I don't know if I've ever seen that before, but that's got to be something. That's got to be something. So the highlights for the mid-year so far, the general fund appears to be in stable and good condition. Our major revenue sources, sales and property taxes, are trending positively. Sales tax is up a little bit more than we expected compared to the same time last year. But for anyone who's too excited about seeing the numbers and the increases, I would caution that there are probably timing differences baked into those numbers. In other words, depending on when vendors or retailers send in their property tax receipts, or sales tax receipts to the Board of Equalization by the time they make it to us, those types of timing things can sway where we are in actuality. I just sat down with our sales tax consultant a few weeks ago to talk about where we are. And though we're trending positively, instead of 18-20% difference from last year as being a real difference, it's more like 5 to 7% if you want to look at it from an economic perspective. In other words, what's our real growth in sales tax? It's more like 5%. But as we receive cash, we can receive much stronger cash than the same time last year. Departments have been doing a good job of keeping their expenditures on track. The two exceptions that, they're really not exceptions, but two departments that we want to look at, and it's no fault of our esteemed city attorney, but there were some legal settlement costs that were approved by council, but we haven't budgeted. So we're just reflecting that to the budget, and you'll see that when we talk about the adjustment. So that was one area that we wanted to just bring to your attention. And then the Public Works Water Division has been performing much of the oversight for the USDA water project. Originally, when we had budgeted this, we thought the city engineer would be doing a lot of the project management. In the absence of having that position, at least Phil, Public Works is really taking on most of that, approving the invoices, part of that approval process. And we felt it appropriate, since he had strong oversight of those activities, that he should be signing according to his division. So we've been doing that, and later we would like to request that budget just to reflect that it's no longer the city engineer that's overseeing this Public Works. Water and sewer revenues, of course, are up due to the rate adjustments that are ongoing, and they are coming in about what we anticipated when we originally looked at doing rate analysis back in 2012. Overall, expenditures are on pace with our original estimates. Redevelopment continues to be resolved, and right now we're in basically debt service mode, as well as addressing issues that come up as a result of the dissolution. You may recall that we saw the ROPS a few weeks ago. That has since been approved by the Oversight Board and will be sent to the state. The ROPS for the members of the council is schedule we send semi-annually to the state of California. So this is what these are the obligations of the former agency have to be paid in the next 6 months. So that the process, at least for the next 6 month period, doesn't continue. And as we define the general fund is balanced. This year, the city manager did recommend using available surplus from prior years for one-time purposes in capital projects in the current year. So we were able to do a number of things, or at least budget a number of things that we most likely would not have been able to do if we maintain our policy of one-time revenues, one-time source, one-time uses. One of those projects being the document. So originally we thought we'd have to use some unspent bond proceeds from the former Redevelopment Agency to do that. But because of through fiscal practices, interdepartmental expenditure control, we were able to reserve enough money to take that project out of the general fund and use those proceeds specifically for this intended use downtown project. Hopefully everyone got the quarterly report that was part of this staff report of the mid-year budget. In that report, I don't have this slide. This is found in other documents, including the budget itself, but just kind of giving you a trend analysis of how our revenues and expenditures in the general fund have fared over time, last 10 years or so. So at the end of 2007 and 8, we see that revenues were quite high, everything was going well, and then we all know what happened after that. And it's been a steady climb out of that nosedive in the last 5 to 6 years. Through that, I think we can really point to some success in trying to maintain the best of balance we could with available revenues and expenditures. And again, the combination of all of those surpluses we recommended for this fiscal year. But we're still recovering as far as revenues from the fall in 08. We still believe that next year, sales tax in particular will equate to the same level, dollar for dollar, as it was in 2006. So it's taken quite a while to get back to that point. All the time, in between expenses and costs, haven't jumped that same way. Costs, especially continuing-wise. And had to pay things cutting elsewhere to make sure that we were finding that balance between the expenditures.
Hey, Dan. Oh, sorry. Can you back up? What is, I can't quite see it from here. What's the red and what's the blue?
The red are revenues and the blue are revenues and the kind of orange, these are the expenditures for the year. So this was last year and this is the budgeted this year.
Looks so off balance because we have our bond proceeds for part of downtown.
For this year?
For this year.
Going back, what year is it where there's a bump in the revenues?
2007?
Is that when we sold the property for $1 million?
Probably.
Oh,
That drives me crazy right there. I hate that.
Is this the point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head.
I think
what
that-
That's where that $1 million is, and then it's not a true bump in, real revenues.
Yeah, it's not going to be triggered by sales tax. So whatever it was, and it could have been at the sale of the property.
So if you take that $1 million off, then those revenues are really in line with the rest.
Between like 6 and 8, so 2006
It's
2008.
just my pet peeve every time I see that. It drives me crazy. So.
Yeah, I have to go back and figure out what that was. But
Well, because also then the money was spent. There did not continue to be the extra $1 million.
right, it wasn't exactly squirrel related.
It wasn't. So,
And this is just the general
onwards.
fund too. This is
Don't
the
get over it.
citywide. So that needs to be pointed out. Just the general fund.
And the revenue,
That's
that
what I
also
feel like.
shows the USDA capital projects in it too.
No, this is just general fund.
Yeah,
So
just
there's
general
no
fund.
USDA or anything.
But never mind.
And a little asterisk for Stacy would make me really happy.
Does not include regular revenues. I can do that with you.
Can't see.
Okay, onward. Thank you.
Our top 10 revenues, this is presented in your quarterly reports, and over 80% of the general fund revenues come from 10 revenue sources. Sales tax, Measure I, as well as 1% rent burn, makes up the bulk of that. But property taxes are not a close second, but up there as well. And this year, we aren't receiving as much grant money as we have in the past in the general fund, but we're hopeful that we will be eligible for additional grant funding in the near future to public safety. We also are seeing nice bumps in fees for service in the general fund, mainly in planning and building. So that indicates to us that there's activity out there. People are filing for applications, paying those fees, and so that's encouraging to us that we're seeing that kind of activity. As I alluded to earlier, departments are doing a good job year to date controlling expenditures. And overall, the city budgeted nearly $17 million citywide, of which we've only spent about $5.8 million, 35%. A lot of that's tied up in capital projects that we're still working toward accomplishing, whether it's USDA or bond proceeds or downtown Main Street. This just reconciles the department's expenditures from the slide you just saw with non-department expenditures, which include things like debt service and other things that departments have no control over. So if we were at 35 with departmental, non-departmental 37 total expenditures. The general fund has a healthy reserve. And this slide is meant to demonstrate the effects of where we are today, or as of January, or December 31st, I should say, on fund balance, and how that fund balance has been assigned in the district. The difference has been, if we have a restriction on the general fund, like we do, say, for police, asset forfeiture, there's an external party that says we can only spend that money for that purpose. As of December 31st, we have almost 48,000 of those restricted from police assets. That's the only restricted amount that I'm aware of in the general fund. Then, if we're following the gap, then we see we have restricted as the most difficult to use because someone else tells you how to use it. Then there's an assignment. So basically, it's the city council, the highest decision-making body, allocates money to a specific thing. In this case, through the budget, the city council assigns reserves for economic uncertainty, as well as some kind of operating reserve, which you'll see later we're going to request a portion of to help us offset costs with fire we have over and then we have general reserves, as well as the city council approved the budget process signed funds for ducks. So that's earmarked for that purpose. We're on to water. As I mentioned earlier, water revenues are coming in on par with what our estimates were for the year. And expenditures on the water side are up from the same time last year. Some of that is just rising costs and pension payments, PERS, as well as healthcare premiums. But also some of it is that we have actually able to hire additional staff and train those staffing levels to, or at least bring those staffing levels to what the budget requested. This is top to 4. So last year, some of the difference in cost was related to the staff on the water side. It really does it's worth mentioning that there are ancillary costs and personnel people that are driving these numbers, those pension as well as
Ma'am, would you characterize the savings in the meter reading as inconsequential or significant or neither?
No, I would consider it very significant. What it allows you to do is to read more resources. So I think it was what it took us a week for 2 people to read the meters, and now it takes 2 hours to work.
Yeah, we spent about 100 hours a month, man hours, doing meter reads, and now we're down to, let's say, 4 hours a month.
So it's 96 hours basically that you can redeploy to other needed areas that
Yeah.
get attention.
Jay's still here, that's why I was talking about maintenance.
So I would say it's hardly inconsequential. Great demonstration of efficiency. On the sewer side, we're seeing similar effects on the revenue due to the rate adjustment. We're also seeing similar effects as to water regarding the expenditures, particularly personnel. We're about the same basis. So increases to redevelopment is fully developed, and Margaret had a chuckle when she saw this slide because I'm refusing to take the RFP down and talk about this. We miss you, redevelopment. Please come back. But no, in all seriousness, the city continues to do its due diligence and the solution process, which, as I mentioned, is already for the most part complete, with the exception of some kind of miscellaneous items that crop up related to the solution. But the bulk of the expenditures will be city properties around the real service. This is the budget that we have approved, both by the city council as well as the successor agency, the oversight board, regarding the administrative costs that were funded by the former redevelopment agencies, taxing for proceeds. Statutorily, where the successor agencies is guaranteed a minimum of $250,000 a year to do this. We ask for consider the last fiscal year, the next fiscal year, we intend to ask about that same amount, because more or less we're just going to have stabilization of debt service, resolution. There's no serious heavy lifting like we did in the last years. And then finally, solid waste shows slight increases in the amount of collections, as well as billings, and then after the city withholds the franchise fee as well as its administrative fee, we pass the remainder on to the hauler. And as at the same time this year, the city owed the hauler a little bit less than $7,500 because we pay when we collect, not when we bill. But this year, we actually pay on everything that we collected. But I still expect that we probably have to collect money that are really past the days on. As of right now, we can't balance. Are there any questions then with what I have covered optically or being good? In a nutshell, everything's looking A-OK still. And we are moving forward with some capital projects as getting closer to spring. Revenues are about on par with what we expected. And we look forward to reporting after the third quarter.
Good job.
Before you move back, that's the level of slides. I'm shifting gears.
That's the first half.
Sorry about that.
That's right.
So we
shift it over and over.
we'd like to talk now about requests to amend the budget to account for some of the things that I mentioned earlier. Basically shifting monies around from one department to another depending on duties and responsibilities. The city manager also sat down with each department in December and January to go over their budgets, and a number of requests came from those meetings from the department levels as well as the city manager coming down and saying, I'd like to see this, that, and the other. But I wanted to go through some of those and answer any questions that also may have, because ultimately staff is requesting adjustment to this year's budget. As I mentioned earlier, the council has made 4 adjustments year to date. The first one was on July 1st. But the general fund, we had a budget adjustment of a little less than $64,000 that was to fill the least detective position. This was back in October. Yes, an increase to our USDA water project budget to cover costs related to the recovery of water tanks. Some mill-scale discovered that required significant effort to try and get rid of for the tank to go up. The council decided to explore some solar budget adjustments to account for those costs. And then finally, there was some prep costs associated with the chip seal that was on the parallel drive that the staff recommended a budget adjustment to council, which was approved. before we go into further requests, I want to present what we have already approved. That is our current budget. Ultimately, staff is requesting at this time for an additional $64,000 in appropriations across all funds. And I'll talk about how each fund is affected, but citywide, $64,000. Some of that, the changes were more than that. Some of them was offset by cost savings elsewhere. Some mayors recommend using those cost savings to fund those changes. Some of them are going to be funded by reserves, the general fund, or the fire branch to the after facility park. Some of it is going to be funded or recommended to be funded by fund balance out of special revenue funds such as which is our transportation fund. That's funded by sales tax collected investment transactions. So ultimately, that's the total appropriation request, but there's a lot of pieces up on a big one, of course, is police station acquisition. You may recall that I came to you a couple weeks earlier and asked for $1.085 million for the application to the USDA, but we only want to adjust the budget up to $1 million right now because we think the costs are more in line with that when it's all said and done. And to be honest, we still think it's going to be less than that, but we wanted to start with this, and then it costs to go up, and what's going on, why possibly, why so we do have that pre-app out, $1.085 million. Right now, we don't adjust the budget for that purchase. And then we did receive some additional revenues in the general fund that we were expecting to budget at the start of the year. This slide here shows how each fund that's being adjusted is being affected. So the general fund, overall departments requested net increase of $22,000. So they typically start with saying, I'd like to increase more here, but I want to increase some here to offset that. Overall, that wasn't sufficient to cover all of the increases, but we are recognizing some additional revenues to offset those increases, leaving a balance of $10,000 which we're requesting from drawn from reserve. That $10,000 is for the deductible on our rapid projects. So agreement covers those costs, but there is a high point on our part before the analysis.
How much is that?
10,000. The total project, I think, to replace everything is, what do we think, 15?
No, we're probably closer to 25.
25. So agreement will pay 15 and essentially pay 10 of that. But we thought the use of reserve appropriate use. We have capital projects fund set up for things like real property acquisition. So that's where the monies will be leaving and coming into from USDA, New York Police Station transaction. We're requesting an additional $105,000 from the stormwater impervious surface fund. This is in conjunction with the sewer project, the sewer project on North Main. The city committed some funds to reviewing portions of the stormwater system up there because of the way the sewer is interacting with it. It's a messy situation, so we committed some of those stormwater funds to do that. But the engineer's estimate came back with 5 numbers and said to get this project done, we're going to be $105,000 out of that fund. And those proceeds from that fund are used collectively for stormwater infrastructure. So that's the appropriate use. The water fund, there was no net increase or decrease, so as departments getting some increase here, there was sufficient cost savings also. So we're not requesting any additional net increase. Sewer side, a project that the Public Works Department budgeted for, we won't be attempting this year. That was the amount of $305. The project itself was
For the roads?
no, for sewer, $49.5.
Oh, that was to do a study for replacing the gaseous chlorine in liquid.
So they asked for that to be removed from the budget and reserved next year. Actually attempted. And then we are requesting a slight decrease in the Redevelopment Successor Agency, which ultimately is going to transfer to the general fund to cover overhead. So the net effect again, $64,500 in additional increase to the appropriation budget. In other words, we're asking for the budget to be increased by $64,500. At the department level, this is how it looks. Departments have requested $205,000 to be reduced on salaries and benefits. This is mainly cost savings from unfilled positions as of December 31st, reallocating them to operations. Before we go into this part, are there any questions about it? Just a quick look ahead for the budget 15-16. It's hard to comprehend these dates that we're playing with. It's like flying cars by now, and it's just like here we are, still on the ground. But we will start beginning budget prep. We've actually already started beginning budget prep now. Departmental requests, haven't sit down with clients now. But we're going to really start taking it in March. This includes a goal of setting a strategic plan session with council, looking to schedule in March. That's really when the numbers will start getting going, the numbers will start fleshing out. We'll have a document prepared in May, and then the first budget hearing is council discussion. Those are pictures.
I love that quarterly report. It's so easy to read.
Dan's made the budget very much user-friendly than we used to have. Nice for the public too.
It's compartmentalized, so you can slide down through each section and find out what every department's doing. It makes it really easy to read and find out where your focus is, what you're most interested in. You can find where we're succeeding. Very nice.
Good, good.
Any questions? No? Okay. Anyone in the public? All right. Thank you, Dan. We have a suggested motion. See who can use their iPad. I guess.
I would move to approve the budget amendment as recommended by staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, we have USDA budget amendment and project update. Is this Mark or? Yeah.
Some technical workings here.
Okay.
Can you see that okay, or would you like me to turn the lights and slide off?
I can see it.
Got me another presentation.
Okay, if you didn't get enough PowerPoint,
There's more.
I'm running up here. I'll do my best to razzle. I'll try to keep up with that. Madam Mayor, members of the council, I'm going to have a quick presentation, kind of gives a little bit of a history and background of the USDA projects, and it'll move into what the staff report has as far as asking to amend the budget that is needed to go to USDA to have the project scope be complete, as well as an amendment number 4 for additional engineering services. And we have in the meetings, we have a couple people I want to point out, brought in some professionals here to help me out if needed. We've got Tom Warnock, he's a principal engineer for Jason Engineering. And Paul Ashby, he's the one that has put together the application to USDA and has been a conduit to make sure that we have all this mass amount of paperwork done, all the I's dotted, and keep USDA happy. And both of them have been invaluable for us through this very large project. Okay, a little bit of history. Like I said, going back, going on almost 4 years ago, back in 2011, was when the city was putting together its application to USDA. And we put 2 applications in because we were looking to maximize the grant benefit. You could only get up to $1 million at the time per application. So we did an application for water, application for wastewater. And this was back in 2011. When we first put the application together, the scope for the water side was to do the loop line, which we were talking about earlier. And part of our master plan, it's good practice to not have dead-end water mains, especially when you have large 14-inch water mains for fire flow and for hydraulics. So the original intent was to go ahead and, as part of the USDA, was to put that loop water line. But at the time, when we were doing the application, the USDA had some concerns that we may have a struggle in getting encroachment permit. And we understood what their concerns were, and through that, we decided to replace that project with another project, which was to repaint our water storage tank. The water storage tanks, we had an inspection from California Department of Health that saw that our tanks had paint that was falling into the water. It was coming out the metal, falling into the water. So they required us to do that. And at the time, we weren't quite sure how to get the funds, because our reserves weren't built up enough. So it was a convenient switch to say, okay, we're going to start to move this project to do what's required by the state in a certain amount of time. So the application was changed. We replaced the loop water line with the tank site. Back in March of 2013, the water enterprise was awarded through USDA, or approved, $3,932,000 in long-term low interest financing, of which $750,000 was given to us as grant funds. So we got about three-quarters of $1 million in grant funds. It was soon after that the wastewater application was approved in the amount of $4,173,000, and close to $750,000 as well in grant funds. That was in May 29, 2013 when we did this letter of condition. As of today, the tank project is substantially complete. We have both tanks painted, they're filled with water, they're in service, so we're actually using both tanks right now. As well as the water meter project, we're talking about the reduction in man hours. That right now is complete. They've completed everything that is required. We're just waiting on them to request final payment. And it was just over 2 weeks ago, we received bids on the next USDA project. The final aspect of the project is in the water application, which is the control system upgrades. So we just received bids just over 2 weeks ago, and we'll be coming back to council possibly March 3rd, the next council meeting, with the lowest responsive bidder and requesting approval for that bid. So here is a picture of the tank. It's a little dark, but that's this is a 1 million gallon tank, and down here is an example of one of the water meters that were installed throughout the city. And just wanted to talk about a little bit about the success of what we've had so far and some of the challenges with the USDA project here. So the state did require, through our permit, which is essentially a law in a sense, where when it's in the permit to operate, and they say you shall fix this by a certain date, we have to do it. It's done. So we're in compliance. The 1 million gallon tank is the one that's pictured right there. I'm going to talk a little bit more about cost, but this one here, this was not the tank that the state was asking us to fix. But in the project, when we're looking at this, we knew that this tank hadn't had any kind of work done, and through inspection, we could see that there was some rust built up and things, so and the paint was gone. We just needed to take care of it. But once it went out to, once we were putting together the bid specifications and we drained the tank and went in there to see what had to be done, we found that the floor, the pitting in there that was halfway through the metal. And because of that, we just had to replace the floor. As well as the exterior paint of that tank was some paint that was on there in an adhesion matter that was harder to come off. So we had these extra costs in there. It's not pictured, but it looks almost identical to this tank here. It's the 1.5 million gallon tank, which you're all aware of. That's the middle scale. Part of the reason, or the reason that paint is falling in when the state says it's fixed, is because it just wasn't holding on to the But we have both tanks in operation and actually being in town now. And the water meter project is completed, and we have just a huge savings in labor. Very, very successful. So cost. So here, and you'll notice here, I've updated this slide right here with a number that's not updated in the staff report. I apologize. During putting this together, we've received the bids that came in. We're going back and looking at all of the different costs of all of the projects. And one of the things that was left out was during this project, there was a need for having somebody oversee the water meter installation. And the city contracted with a consultant to do the construction observer for the meter project. That cost was $48,000. So in your staff report, I'll point out where that cost is minus is $48,000. But what we're coming to, I'll be asking the council here shortly is we're going to ask that the water budget that we would like to go to USDA, we're asking for an increase of $812,453. And the reason, there's a few reasons why we came about with that, these cost increases, and I want to go through them in a general sense. We have, the bids just came in, and some of now we know the cost of what the bid's going to be. Well, those bids just came in. The cost to do the SCADA was at the top of the engineer's estimate with this next project. It was like slightly above it. So that's a little bit more than what we planned on, and we're only looking at a 5% contingency for this budget for this next project. So we're not 5% can be used up very quickly on a $2.3 million project. 5% is not a whole lot. There's a lot that can go wrong. So there's just not even enough in contingency to cover that really thin line for the cost for the SCADA project. So there's a slight bump to that. When the city first went out and worked with Case Civil Engineering to put together the application, there was a preliminary engineering report. It's a high elevation view of what's needed. Essentially looked at the water and sewer master plans and said, okay, these are top priorities. This is what the costs are. We're talking back in 2010, 2011. These are what the costs are at that time. And looked at, well, these projects that we're doing, upgrade the controls. We did the water tanks, which were expected. The property purchase, the meters. So the city engineer and the Case Civil Engineering worked together to develop with some very minor correspondence with operations. So once the application was submitted and everything was approved, and the engineers came down and started working with line staff and operations, so yeah, we're going to be doing all this wonderful work for you. And the line staff is saying, you're not going to deal with our VFDs, which control the pumps. They're 8 years past their life expectancy. We're spending thousands of dollars every year replacing circuit boards. You're not going to replace the chemical pumps. They're constantly failing on us. There's crime. What about our ozone control panels aren't running? And we need these other control panels. So once they started working with our operators, then there was this, well, we can't move forward and replace the logic controllers and not address these other devices. So at that time, the work with the city engineer and the go-ahead was given to have the engineer work on addressing the additional work needed to address these items. That also brings up the cost portion. As I mentioned earlier, the water storage tanks, which was the largest part of why we went over the water aspect. New floor in the 1 million gallon tank. We had the scale remover that had to come off. There were some stairwells that were put in, which had a little bit of an increase. There were some pipe modifications on site that needed to be done because there's a lot of artifacts from old water tanks, and it was very mixed up. Hard for the operators to know what was going on there. So we cut off some old dead-end pipes and made it more efficient. So these are some extra costs for water. And as I mentioned earlier as well, construction observer. So at that time we needed to have a full-time construction observer during installation of the water meters. And I believe that was very valuable for the city. Now it's transition. Hey, does anyone have any questions on the water side?
One of the, I've heard recently in the last 6 to 10 months, whatever, something about a computer-operated asset management software. Is that something that's coming, or?
We have it's a asset management, it's what we call cartograph. And the cartograph is what we've transitioned into for doing work orders. And it has component in there for as well asset management. So we just implemented this software platform this year. And it's right now primarily being used for work orders and work requests. But what we're planning to do as we learn the system and get things input there is to take more of the budget aspect of the capital improvement and start really looking at the assets and how to depreciate them. So as they depreciate, we can hopefully have the capital improvement budget match some of those depreciations. So when they do reach their life expectancy, like I was saying, the VFDs for 8 years past life expectancy, they're spending money on like circuit board. But it'd be more ideal to, once you figure it 10 years, to say, well, we've depreciated this and hopefully we have money set aside. We can just go out there and replace it. We know they're going to fail. We can't. But that's where we're headed as a best practice in managing assets. So we're heading down that track. Dan's going to the capital.
Yeah, because it seems that sometimes, and this isn't necessarily the city of Lakeport, but I mean, we see situations where people that are making decisions about trucks and trailers and reefers, they're not talking to the drivers. The drivers will say, well, we have this problem all the time, and nobody seems to care about it because they're not communicating. We have an asset management system that gives the sun set on a particular piece of equipment that it should come up on the radar and be brought before it becomes an issue, and then you have maintenance costs that far override maybe the replacement or something. So that's a long
on the sewer side, we're going to be asking the council to increase the budget by $744,329 to increase it. This one is the largest increase of this is we have these treatment ponds out of the wastewater treatment facility that have been in service since 1991. So we're talking about 24 years of service where there is solid removal over that time. So it's like Kenny was mentioning earlier, it past its life expectancy to be cleaned out. They're very deep ponds, so there's no worry of that stuff coming out, but it reduces the volume. Now we have a very large amount of what they call sludge on the bottom of these ponds that have to be removed. Now the permit that we have in the state allows us to land apply the sludge and allow it to dry on site. And that was originally the intent of the engineers. We said, well, the permit says we can put it on land, let it dry, and once it's dry, it's much cheaper to remove because it doesn't have on that lake. So that was the original intent, but after getting in with operation and saying, you know, we have a lot of sludge here, and we don't know of any other system in our region that has been successful at drying this stuff on site within the season, much less the amount that we have. So to remove the risk of trying to land apply and making sure it's gone before the rains come, because we can't have it on land when the rains come, we said we really need to make sure that we don't mess up this, have to go back out again and do what we're practicing to do now. And that is to remove the sludge and dry it mechanically through presses. Once you press out the water, you reduce the wind substantially to haul out. But the cost for sludge removal and land applied is, I think, $300 a dry ton. The cost of removing mechanically is $700 a dry ton. So that's more than double that cost. And the majority of the cost that we're asking to increase, the $724,000, comes from that changing method of removing sludge. The Main Street sewer, there's been some increases. The manholes that are out there, we're going to from an 8-inch sewer main to a 12-inch sewer main. And we have manholes that need to be put more in line and manholes that are undersized. So we're replacing manholes that we don't identify for. And as I mentioned, additional engineering services, as I mentioned earlier, these extra work items that operations convey to the engineer, takes engineering, come at a cost. I believe they're very reasonable, but it's still extra costs that the city has to pay to have their services done. And the city is asking, which is in the transition to shortly, the city is asking to authorize amendment number 4 with coastal engineering to provide quality control and assurances during this next project that's going on to bid. We've had a loss of a city engineer and we've had a loss of utility superintendent, both very critical staff that were expected to be a part of this team and help out with the administration of this. And now we just don't have those resources in-house anymore. So looking to contract that out, I believe what we're going to be doing is actually going to, in the long run, save the city money. Putting it all on myself. With all the big cost problems with delays and go back to the contract. So those are changes. So what's next? Just kind of a wrap up here is the current bid that I'm looking to bring back to City Council at the March 3rd meeting. That's going to cover the water and sewer control. That's what allows us to run around the clock on weekends and after hours. We are going to replace or install a new sewer pump station over by the Skylark on Clear Avenue. New location's going to go over there. We're going to be upsizing that sewer main. This is going to be opening up the center of Main Street from Clear Lake Avenue all the way down to 6th Street. So that's going to be a whole new sewer main that's going on right there. That is, it's not part of the UFA, but we also had a storm drain that we're going to be replacing from Albert Andrews Restaurant across the pathway. That whole pipe and the storm drain through it. Yeah, and the storm drain, which is not UFA. We are going to be going out to bid. Casel Engineering is currently working on doing the bid specifications for a new sewer force main that will go under Highway 29. They met with Caltrans, worked on the permit to go through under the freeway, get that sewer main over there. So they're getting close to wrapping up the design and bid specifications for that, as well as the treatment ponds. With the treatment ponds, we have around the top, the apron, the concrete apron is cracking, and parts of it are actually falling down and over the treatment ponds falling in. So that both these projects, the sewer force main in 29 and the sludge removal will be going, we expect to go out to bid end of March, beginning of April. So in April, I'm hoping to come back to the City Council with a recommendation of the lowest responsible bidder for the year.
Going back to the sewer main, sizing the storm drain,
Yes.
that's Main Street.
It is.
What's the timing on that?
Well, the project has 18 months. And there's a lot of, we're going to have to work with the contractor to try to make sure that things are done at the best time for traffic, the best time for when the ground table, the water ground table
Is it
goes.
this summer?
I believe so. Yeah.
Is that
It should be this.
overlap with our Main Street?
Well, it's on this one, the Main Street.
I know, I'm
but
just wondering if it's all going at the same exact time.
I'm not sure.
I don't.
You know,
The Main Street is still, we're still working on the bid documents, the bid for that aspect of, when it goes out, actually goes out to bid, is when we find out more, when they're working.
so are you ahead of that?
Yeah, so this is already the bids, we've already gone out to bid. The bid is now in our hands. We have 3 bids in for now. We have what appears to be the lowest responsible bidder. So we're looking to come to City Council next, on March 3rd, requesting authorization to move forward with awarding the bid. So it'll be probably the later part of March, maybe around the week of the 20th, when we'll actually have a pre-construction conference and give a notice to proceed, somewhere around there for the contractor. So once that notice to proceed is given, that's when you have it defined. You have so many days.
Okay. And then what are we doing to the road after? Patching it or?
The road is, they're going to be digging up the sewer main right down the center of the road and replacing that and tying in all of the service laterals and then cutting straight across with the storm drain. So those areas will have a new road with, over the trench, but the road itself is going to stay.
So it'll be patched up.
It'll be patched.
Okay. Oh.
Any other questions?
So the question is, okay, you said that you have 3.9 million low interest loan, $750,000 grant for water, and that you're increasing the project budget. Is that meaning that you're increasing the amount of money to borrowing at the low interest rate from the USDA? Is that
Excellent question, and I skipped this one, and it's a very important aspect. What we're looking to do is we're looking to, if the council authorizes us to go to USDA with this increased amount, is ask them for amending our application to include these additional funds completely. What they told us is, yes, we feel that this is a fit for a program, we can get financing, no problem, but they've also said that they believe we get 40% grant. So what we're asking for is, we don't know. They haven't guaranteed how much grant funding we'll get, but they felt at the time like 40% is about what we'll get our needs. So even though we're asking for, I believe it's $1.5 million, potentially 40% of that would be grants.
$600,000 possibly?
And we do have Tom and Paul here if there's any questions.
We should get the percentage pretty soon. They said after we get all of our numbers in, then they'll give us they'll report back to council so we can find out what that actually is.
Smart Manny finishes up with the 40%.
Yeah. Thanks, Kenny. That's what we'll call it.
It was all Cory.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Oh,
Any
you're
other
welcome.
questions? Any public comment? So Mark, in the suggested motion, there's no dollar amount?
Correct, and let me bring that up real quick, because there is a change to the amount. And the reason I didn't put the dollar amount quite in the motion, and we can definitely put it in the motion, is this is, you know, we're really going to be asking USDA for the money. You know, we set the amounts in here, and we can put that in the motion. And if you want to put that in the motion, I would go draw your attention to paragraph 2, down at the bottom, where it shows the cost for the water of $764,453. That would change to the number that we had on the presentation of $812,453, due to the not getting the meter observer. And the total cost for both projects would be for the water project would be $5,508,906. And the sewer one stays the same.
Okay, but in the suggested motion, we're just looking at the additional funds.
Right.
And what is the total number?
So I would,
$1,508,782.
yeah, I would say if you want to talk about the.
Do we need to do that?
It's what the USDA is going to need to see.
The USDA, you know, we're still going to be getting 2 projects that will come in. They may come in under year's estimate. So the USDA is looking, what they want to know is that the legislative body will support this additional debt service without having to go out to the ratepayers and ask for an increase, which Dan has clarified that we won't need to do an increase for this additional debt service. So all the USDA is looking for is to ensure that there's a legislative support for the city council and what we're going to be going to them and asking for. And at this time, what we believe we're going to be needing is the numbers at $812,453 for water.
You want to ask Paul for sure? Do we have to put the amount in there exactly at this point? No, just the approval to move forward.
But the additional amount is $1,556,782.
I was just thinking we might want an amount, not to exceed a certain amount, possibly. It doesn't have to be on the button, but just, unless, you know, if we don't put an amount, then we're saying go for whatever you want, and that's probably not what we're saying, right? So if we picked a number.
I would pick the numbers we have right there.
Not to exceed 1.6.
Sure.
Does that cover it? But you have a bunch of nods behind you.
Oh, the expert panel behind me says yes. I trust them.
Yeah, it didn't look like it exceeded.
Are we on the same page? Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Well, this is just a kind of a formal process that you go through before you get to the final numbers, and if you get to 40% and all that kind of stuff, it changes everything and what our liability is going to be and so forth. So, yeah, it's just to get the paperwork rolling and show that we're all of the same mind and we support the project.
Okay, if there's no other questions, take a motion.
So, let's try this. Move to authorize staff to request additional funds and grants from the USDA not to exceed $1.6 million needed to complete the water and wastewater projects, and authorize the city manager to sign amendment number 4 to the owner-engineer agreement for QA/QC services during the water and wastewater SCADA project.
second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. No further comment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Just want to clarify, didn't mean to give us an open check. Oh, let's make sure, do we have that exact number? Sorry.
Okay, Mark, an excavator purchase.
She never answered this.
Josie comes with the 1.6. Yes, excavator.
Okay, for the next agenda item, and without a PowerPoint slide, I'm sorry, we have a request asking that the City Council authorize the City Manager to sign the purchase order and any other documentation that may be required in getting the excavator and its accessories. And this was our heavy equipment that we have in our inventory is getting quite old. And back in 2000, the state wanted to improve on air quality and came out with these requirements. And what we're looking to do is replace a backhoe. It's a 1986 backhoe that we can only run 100 hours each year. And that's for now. It won't be, I think it's about 2 years out where they're just going to say, so in this year's budget, this is, we looked at replacing that with an excavator. The excavator has all the latest California CARB requirement for pollution reduction. And we put in the budget process for this fiscal year $150,000 in the budget. In the sewer budget, to make this purchase, we do have a lot of property, 750 acres of property out there in the wastewater treatment plant, of which a large majority of it has spray irrigation. So there is a need out there. It's pasture land that has aging pipes out there, and we have been going out there more often to do repairs. So that's why the sewer we're looking to as being the purchaser for this equipment. We're looking to lease the equipment out to roads department, storm drains, and also to the water department for trying to water so the money is in the budget. When we did the bid, we asked the candidates to put a price for what the excavator alone would be, because we weren't sure what the prices would come back at. And we put as there's a bid alternative to list these other attachment accessories that we would like to get, but we didn't want to throw the bid away if it exceeded what our budget amount was. So we said, okay, give us these bid alternatives. And you can see with the bid that was sent out what those items were. What we're asking is that we have those some of those accessories, majority of those accessories picked out. It comes in just under $150,000 the budget amount. So we received two bids. They're very close to each other in price, and we presented you with the lowest bid. We think we'll provide a bid price. One was a John Deere, and the other one was a Cat. Actually, that's the lower bid.
The requirements that are coming around, are they similar to the diesel truck type things, the semis, where they have to be phased out at some point?
All diesel equipment. There's a difference between on-road and off-road, but this is an off-road. And so it has if you go onto the state's website, it shows you different categories. This falls into an off-road category.
Do these have warranties, or?
They do.
Are they similar, the two different?
Yes. I think
Who would work on it if something?
Well, Yeah.
We got our man over here.
Well, hopefully, we'll have
For warranty work.
29 years as a diesel mechanic. And who'd you work for? Cat?
Peterson, yeah.
Peterson.
So while it's under warranty, they would do the covered warranty repairs, and that's about 1,000 hours or 6 months if you go over that before 6 months. But it's probably going to be a year before you get 1,000 hours.
And did they send people out?
Yeah.
We're just like we have here today.
Any other questions? Anyone in the public? Okay. We have a suggested motion.
I'll move to authorize the city manager to sign the purchase order. Oh, do we need to specify the amount? It's again,
The amount?
It's part of the staff.
It's part of the-
Yeah.
Almost 45.
I'll move to authorize the city manager to sign a purchase order and any other documentation that may be required in the purchase of the excavator and the accessories.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mark, and congratulations on your new purchase.
Yeah.
Okay. Council communications. Kevin, what's new? Chief.
I would invite you guys all out to watch City Manager and I and Officer Truitt do the floor plunge.
When is that?
We're
Saturday.
raising funds for that, too,
Saturday.
yeah.
We're also trying to raise some donations.
For
if anyone's
special
interested.
events.
We have an envelope in City Hall, but
Oh, really?
We'll
So
be-
where and when?
County Park, out in Kelseyville, Lakeside County Park, on Saturday at noon. Saturday the 21st, I guess.
Saturday noon, County Park,
Yeah.
with your cameras.
Yeah.
I leave the cameras at home, that's okay.
And I'll be at Cal Chiefs conference next week down south, so the kind of person will be in charge while I'm done.
Okay. Mark, anything else?
Nothing to report.
Yeah.
I'll be at the California Finance Officers Annual Conference the rest of the week. But I also wanted to let everyone know, because I know that this whole AV system has been kind of challenging, kind of move around. We are exploring ways of making things a little bit more effective and convenient for future.
Nice.
Budget.
Is that
So
what
now I'm
you'll
playing
learn at your
chairs.
financial conference?
What's that?
Is that what you'll learn at your
That's what
financial
I'm focused on.
conference?
How to deliver a PowerPoint even better.
Wow.
Mirrors.
That's all.
David?
No.
Barbara?
Yes, I was hoping council might be available before the next council meeting on March 3rd for a 5 o'clock workshop to discuss the solid waste contract, and then bring it back to a later council meeting for adoption, but or whatever council decides. But have us start with the workshop on
So
March 3rd
at 5 o'clock, does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Does that work? Okay, good. And then I was gone, Janelle sent out a request for March 20th for a, oh my God, I forgot, for the goal setting. Did you guys get an invite for that?
I don't think I saw anything.
Okay, does March 27th work for you, Friday the 27th? And probably a half a day, so does the afternoon work better for,
Morning's better.
what was the we could do the 20th. The
It
mornings
Labor
are
Day
better.
on the
It was the
20th, right?
13th was originally.
It was originally the 13th,
This is for March.
yeah. Does the 13th work better than the 20th? The 27th, I mean. Actually, I think Mark was going to be gone on the 20th, on the 13th.
Mark can't do it.
13.
Yeah. Does the 27th work for everyone? Sure.
When?
But that, I didn't know if it's a morning better or an afternoon
When
better.
That's on the
Those are
20th.
the 20th.
And the 6th and the 20th.
6th and the 20th was the training. That's why he limited us to what days we could do the Bill's saying.
Okay, so, what'd you say?
It's about a half a day we'd like to set aside for that. So is morning or afternoon better for council? Either one?
I'll make it work.
So is morning okay then? I heard one morning. Okay.
Like 9 to
Like 9 a.m. Yeah, so 9 to 12. Should be able to. Or later than 1 o'clock. We'll feed you lunch. Okay. Good. All right, thank you. Let's get that done.
Kelly, do you have
That's it,
anything
thank you.
tonight? No, no report. Councilmember Turner?
I just wanted to announce that tomorrow is the Chamber of Business Mixer because of the fairgrounds. Next Tuesday, I'll attend the Chamber Board meeting. And Friday, the 27th, is the Regional Economic Development Workshop in the afternoon, which should be interesting. And then there is the Clear Lake Team Bass Tournament at Canocta Vista Casino from February 27th through the 1st. So I'm going to go help wave sling fish or something on the 1st.
Councilmember Carlett?
I'm the featured speaker tomorrow at the North Shore Business Association, which should be interesting. And Saturday I'll be at the Coastal Mountain Conference Wrestling Championships refereeing. And then on Sunday afternoon at 2:30 I will be winging my way to Las Vegas to get out of Dodge. So that's
Congratulations.
a much needed vacation.
And thank you for your calendar.
Oh my God.
Councilmember Spillman?
Hey, Paul. I'll be out at the park on Saturday. We're finishing up the storage building out there. Anybody wants to strap on a tool bag and come out and help. We're going to put on the roof and the big doors for the mower and stuff so we can keep it in that area. The only other thing is I'd like to thank Mark's crew I breezed back into town right after the big storm, and I heard that the roads were completely covered in crap everywhere, and not crap, but I mean debris and potholes and everything else, and a lot of people commented that it seemed to get ship-shape real quick as far as the cleanup and as far as the potholes being patched, and I thought things looked really good real fast. So,
Thank you. I'll pass that on.
Yeah.
And Doug Ryder and Jim Kennedy and all the crews came out early and really worked hard to get things put up. When we received calls from some of the residents up in the Hillcrest area, thanking the guys for being so quickly.
Oh, good.
yeah, it really looked good. It looked like you had a generator out there by the corner of
By Napa?
Yeah.
Yeah, we deploy some of our mobile generators for a sewer pump station. There's a sewer pump station there. And if the power goes out, which we were expecting, I'm surprised with those high winds we didn't get some power failures that lasted a period of time. If it goes out, those stations don't have long storage. You have to get power to them.
Yeah, it was pretty devastating driving from up north of Crescent City after that storm.
Oh.
Seeing the drive back was quite a bit of devastation. Thank you.
I don't have anything further, so thank you to those who joined us tonight, and meeting adjourned.